Good morning. Today, 7th August 2024. We are going to discuss editorials of The Hindu. Today's quote: Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. It was told by Winston Churchill. He was Prime Minister of Great Britain, UK, United Kingdom. So this quote is very important. Suppose if you are aspiring to become successful in the path, you will feel many failures, and then you should not treat failure as a final thing, and then it is a fatal blow, that is a kind of death. You should have the courage, and that courage will matter. Every time you fail, rise above that failure. First article here, it talks about Indian economy, how to make $30 trillion economy by 2047. India has an ambitious goal of Viksit Bharat by 2047. So this article is written in that light. India's growth story, we are already feeling triumphant because of India's growth story, but it betrays. That means there are several factors why it betrays. 7% plus GDP growth, India being fastest growing economy, all these things strengthens this prophecy that 21st century is a India's century. There is also belief that economic growth is inevitable because every time India is growing economically, we need to remember that several countries have been there before, like we are today, at the very juncture where we stand today. Most of the countries, those who have failed to bring country on economic excellence, have failed in the last mile and didn't emerge as a developed nation. India, to avoid such a thing and to become a $30 trillion economy by 2047, as envisaged by our government, we must pursue rapid economic growth and also build liberal economic policies that harness private sector. We should not leave private sector. We need to harness the private sector. In this pursuit of $30 trillion economy by 2047, many of the countries may tell India has huge income inequality. They will point out that top 1% has a huge income, whereas rest 90%, middle 50% and bottom 40% will have the less income. Recently, we have discussed this article also. We must not get swayed, we must not get moved by these kind of criticisms. Economic growth is an effective tool for poverty alleviation, improving standards. Author wants to stay. Before, from independence, from 1947 to 1991, 1991, one important thing happened. What is that? LPG reforms. India's poverty rate stayed approximately 50%, despite many policies we have taken, socialist policy, those emphasized on poverty reduction. You might have heard about Garibi Hatao, Garibi Bachao, such a kind of scheme. Like you might have seen those things. But between 1991 and the year when this liberalization happened, liberalization, globalization, privatization, and 2011, poverty rate fell down approximately 20%. India's growth pulled out 35 crore people out of this extreme poverty during this period. Now the question is India more unequal today than pre 1991? Perhaps we don't have the data to support such a change. And even Gini coefficient. What is Gini coefficient? Gini coefficient also. Yes, there is no much change. Gini coefficient points about percentage of population versus percentage of income. This graph will be like that. If population is growing, income must also grow. So this is the Gini coefficient. X-axis percentage of population. Y-axis you will get income. Are more Indians better off today than especially bottom of those period, bottom of the pyramid, whether they are good today? Answer is yes. In fast growing economy, there are bound to be few people who will generate a lot of wealth. Let us suppose say now Ambani's, Adani's, instead they will be generating the wealth, at the same time they will be investing in the economy. That further will generate the employment opportunities and all. It is the vehicle that improves everyone's lives. We should focus on this vehicle, though we should not be concerned about how much income variation is there. We must be focusing on private sector. We must make them to invest more in Indian economy. Now we have convinced ourselves that that inequality is nothing to do. Now let us consider more numbers. We have gained easier gains from economic reforms from 1990s. India's high growth years from 2000 to 2010 led by IT services. If you see 50% of GDP is contributed by IT services, India's IT services is very strong. But 46% of our labor force they remain in agriculture. Agriculture just contributing to 18% of GDP, and agriculture is also characterized by low productivity, underemployment, disguised unemployment. Also, we discussed many times. Even one more factor, labor force participation of the women, female labor force participation, it just remains at 37%. It is one concerning issue. This figure was even low when 2019 it was 26%. 2019 was the year when COVID happened. After COVID, several women who were working in the industries, they gone back to home, rural areas, and then they have absorbed themselves into agricultural labor. When we compare female labor force participation rate in China, Vietnam, Japan, all of them are ranging between 60% to 70%. We know exactly where we need to be. We should be aiming to more than above. How do we unlock immense potential? India's working age population. India's working age population is 95 crores. Only half of them are employed. So, how to ensure employment equity? All of them get employment. Low skilled, employment intensive manufacturing with strong focus on export is how South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, and Vietnam, they are called Asian tigers because they focused on this low skilled, employment intensive manufacturing sector. They achieved regularly double digit growth between 1960 to 1990. Our last year economic growth was 8.2%. We are not even to double digit growth. Their brand of economic policy, it focused on rapid export oriented industrialization, and then the policy was also, it was based on understanding the growing exports requirement, also focusing on imports. We need to focus more on exports. At the same time, we need to control imports also. Imports in such areas so that it again generate the exports. On net basis, openness is required for growth as it for India. Between 1990 and 2013, export percentage of India grown from 7% of to 25%. Today, India tries to capitalize on China plus one movement to attract global manufacturing. So the way China attracted many industries and then established industries in the Chinese location, India is also following the similar position. They are attracting global manufacturing firms and then supply chains. Further to export, we must resist temptation of putting high tariff wall on import. So at the same time, we are causing many companies to come to India, but our import tariff is very high. What happens when tariff is very high? When tariff is very high, so it will dent our domestic industry. How? When tariff, suppose say cost of steel is 100 rupees. Now again some 20, 30 rupees tariff they will put. So 130 rupees. Domestically it available 140 rupees, 120 rupees. So this will become very costly. Uh, the material could be costly, but at the same time it is very quality. But when it comes to 120 rupees, the availability of material is very less in India. In that scenario, we cannot do anything. So that is the case where we need to focus more on import tariff also. This is the area where tariff will create inflate the prices of the many parts needed for finished phones, and ultimately, so one example he has given, suppose say we want to manufacture phone in India, so we will be importing many of the raw material. So if we impose a lot of cost of the phone will go, and then cost escalation will happen, and eventually inflation will come. On this proverbial vicious cycle, India should stay clear of middle income trap that is coming ahead. 101 middle income economies in 1960, only 23 attained a high income status by 2018. So it reminds us that challenge India will have still lower middle income economy that must graduate to middle income economy by early part of next decade and should go further. So India to become lower middle income to middle income economy status, then it must avoid all these things. There are many reasons why countries get ensnared in the middle income trap. This can be, economy losing their edge in the lower end sectors, not competitive through more prosperous countries in high sector. India's problem is very peculiar. We have unable to leverage our surplus labor to grow low-end sectors. Recently, we discussed even one article about Chinese lower-end technology technicians. They are far more productive than our lower-end technicians. So this gives a huge hint that we need to put more focus on these people. Why? Because IT gave boom since 2000 to 2010. IT sector is contributing more to, but IT headroom is very limited. Why? Because it will absorb very few people who are very technically qualified. But India, we have 90% of more people working in the informal sector. So this will create a problem. It will damage the value chain manufacturing built on the foundation of low tech manufacturing. So we must ensure that apart from the quality, we need to ensure scale and we need to recruit more people. So that will become backbone of the industrial sector. Even government functionaries who have helped to develop simple low tech manufacturing at scale will find easier to graduate to challenges that come ahead. India's social sector and civil society should view campaigns that put factories, they are the sweat shops, they are, paying low wages in this regard. So they should disregard them. Forcing employers, because sometimes employer to pay more to employees will not change the condition. Suppose say one employer is there, he wants to pay people more salary. It doesn't mean employer is generating more manufacturing activities. So first time we don't need to focus much on these salary aspects. Later economy can be built in this aspect. Avoiding middle income trap requires market-led economy that gives rise to private enterprise increase, and then government intervention should not be there. We need to follow the motto minimum government and maximum governance. India state must continue delivering on this decade long promise. At the earliest, we need to go for ease of doing business. As usual, India's ease of doing business has been rising for, improved very much, but in certain areas we are very lacking. So we need to make one model author gives is cluster led industrial model. This cluster led industrial model, government must double down its impressive achievements wherever the creaky infrastructure there, wherever the infrastructure there. If you follow this cluster area, suppose say now here automobile is there, so you follow here nut and bolt, you follow your chassis and all. So all allied system, this will become cluster. So this will generate economy. Indian state face many of the disabilities because of the power, logistic, financing. There is no low labor productivity when compared with countries such as China, Bangladesh, and Vietnam. So compliance burdens deter these players, new players entering and exiting the this economic sector. Several countries have faced similar challenges. So cluster-led model of industrial development, where stringent regulations relaxed in designated areas, will definitely help in favorable environment for manufacturing. Time is the essence. Government must act at the earliest, and then it should focus on the low-skilled manufacturing that can employ multitude of people in sectors such as electronic assembly, apparel industry, even garment industry also. Interstate migration, urbanization would be important things here, as female labor force participation and decline in agricultural share of total employment. So this will give a right path to become $30 trillion economy by 2047. There is a phrase often quoted in policy circle in India. It's country of mouth-watering opportunity, eye-watering challenges. What does this mean? We'll talk a lot and we will aim for many things, but when it comes to actual implementation, we will cry. Basically, we'll face a lot of challenges. We think challenges here are the most exciting opportunities. The reward for breaking down these barriers to grow would be a great path to prosperity till we fulfill our tryst with destiny. It is time to forward thinking and ambitious as befits Vishwaguru. To become Vishwaguru, we need to follow, we need to make challenges, we need to understand these things. Next article, it is about the Bangladesh. So we'll discuss this article in detail. 1947, India and Pakistan, two countries emerged. Pakistan emerges as East Pakistan and West Pakistan. Today's The previous East Pakistan was known as today's Bangladesh. The West Pakistan was known as Pakistan. So today's Pakistan is West Pakistan, today's Bangladesh is today's Bangladesh is previous East Pakistan. So Pakistan, what they did, they imposed many things. They imposed Urdu language on the people, wherein people speaks Bangla, and then against the women, they have carried out atrocities, and then people, they subjugated people, and then they carried out many such activities. So even Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, father of Sheikh Hasina, he won the election there, but however, so he was not given, but it was ruled by Bhutto from West Pakistan, that is today's Pakistan. So many such things happened. So employment opportunities also reduced. In employment quota, more opportunity given to Pakistan people. Army was completely engaged by Pakistan people. So all these things and huge suffering was going on between the people, but huge suffering was happening within the people. So people thought India's people started going into India. So the borders such as Seven Sisters, northeastern state, Assam, completely inundated, flooded with people moving from Bangladesh, and then so India faced crisis. So then India involved in 1971. War happens between India and Pakistan almost between March to November in 1971. By November, so Indian Army helps Bangladesh, previous East Pakistan, and then defeats West Pakistan, today's Pakistan, and finally a new country emerges, Bangladesh. Soon after Bangladesh emerges, there were several radical factions were there. Several radical today's party which Sheikh Hasina represents is Awami League. So this party was there. Even radical Islamist groups was also there. These groups they wanted to impose Pakistan values. Awami League is kind of, Army was kind of modern and liberative, so many things happened during that time. So basically, slowly this Islamic radical group were divided of power, and then Awami League comes into power. So the reason now context is Sheikh Hasina, she has been thrown from the power, and then she resigned, and then she left the country and presently seeking asylum in India. She ruled for almost 20 years, 15 of them are uninterrupted, and then she ruled as a Prime Minister of Bangladesh and left now Delhi because of disastrous event took place. The main question we need to ask is why did this happen? So there was a quota system in 1971. After liberation of Bangladesh, there was a reservation to people from those who fought in the freedom struggle, in Bangladesh freedom struggle. So they were given 30% reservation in the employment. So later in 2018, around that time, people started protesting, and then Supreme Court intervenes and then maintains the status quo, that is 30%. Again, Sheikh Hasina protest against that, and then 30% of the quota reduced by Supreme Court to 5%. So even after that, political groups will not be satisfied. They want resignation of the Sheikh Hasina. During this time, Sheikh Hasina gives one statement called Rajakars. She calls them Rajakars. What do you mean by Rajakars? Those who were fought with Pakistan during Bangladesh Liberation War in 1971 were called Rajakars. It is very derogatory terms that is being used against Bangladeshi people. So they felt very derogatory, and then these Islamic radical groups they wanted to seize the opportunity. They are in huge need of power. They wanted to coup the government. So they wanted to instigate already existing violence already happening in the streets. So they instigated people. So a lot of violence took place. Finally, she has to left the country. So now we need to worry that we have 4096-kilometer border area with Bangladesh. And then during Sheikh Hasina's regime, she is always pro India. She always followed pro India policies. And then we didn't have much terror activities happening around the soils of northeastern area and even Bangladesh. So it was because of Sheikh Hasina's regime. We don't know how future government goes, but let's see what happens with the future. Army was modern and liberative. This is the article all dictates about. She brought many people from the poverty. She did many things, but at the end, so people protested against her, and then many things had happened. So in future, many article will come. We'll discuss these things in detail. So what is India's policy towards Bangladesh? Also, we need to understand. So future many policies emerges. We'll see. Another thing about the next article is about quota dystopia. What is dystopia? You might have heard utopia. Utopia means everything is good, fine, awesome. Dystopia means bad. Something bad is happening everywhere. Bad is happening. So this quota system need to be discussed. Recently, Supreme Court gave a judgment that internal quota can be given within the SC community. Within SC community, there are many people who have benefited the reservation and they are at well positions. But there are people who are at bottom quartile, so they haven't benefited any reservation. So this author talks about this is very bad thing. Even Rahul Gandhi in Parliament asking for caste-based reservation, caste-based census, caste-based survey. So this thing in this slide, author has discussed this article. India is on the edge of embracing this, you know, not good education and jobs quota system driven by the politics and even this judicial intervention. From politics, Rahul Gandhi has been pushing to count caste survey. Supreme Court in recent judgment given a reservation sub quotas within the quota system for backwards within the category, basically SC category. Since the verdict come a warning to political parties that judiciary will not accept any arbitrary creation of quotas, it effectively mandates caste-based survey. So what happens when we do caste-based survey? Supreme Court verdict will set better off sections among the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, even other backward tribes against those in the same broad categories. So reduction in the opportunities for those castes that have so benefited from the quotas. So basically what happens? Internal struggle will happen between both of them. This will generate some conflicts. Some Congress Dalit leaders like PL Punia, Kumari Sejla, they are even calling for constitutional amendment to nullify the Supreme Court verdict as null and void. Rahul Gandhi's gambit even backfired from the party itself. It is worth to note that current conflict in Manipur, whatever Manipur conflict happened because of this judicial verdict happened last year, saying that Hindu minorities can also be designated as STs, which is violently opposed by Kukis, the community in Manipur. Now imagine, so just two community, Kuki and Hindu minorities in Manipur created a lot of violence. Even we have seen a lot of things. Even Parliament also debated extensively about this. Now you imagine when you create sub quotas, quota within the quota for SC, ST, OBCs, what kind of situation it will be. Political consensus will be to expand overall quotas rather than redistribute them within the existing category. As the demand for quotas have gone only one direction. So now almost it crossed 50% of quota in India. The reservation system, India's reservation system is forward thinking. Within the reservation, we never thought division, but recent Supreme Court judgment is very vital in this direction. So this will create a lot of problem. That is what author is telling. No political party wants to alienate subgroup of quota beneficiaries. If anyone wants to do, then their vote bank will be lost. So this will not happen by political party. From 50% limit on quota in the Indra Sani judgment, now Narendra Modi's government gave special quota to economically backward community from the OC community. Even Tamil Nadu implemented 69% of the quota. It is inevitable that 69 to 75% of quota will be new target in the new enthusiasts. It may grow. Now almost 55 to 60% quota is there. So it will go up to 75% also. Even United Progressive Alliance, UPA, Congress, they wanted to move the quota system into private sector also. So this they even included in their manifesto, that is Nyay Patra. Congress not only promised constitutional amendment to raise 50% limit on the quotas, they also extended quotas to private educational institutions. Recently, you might have heard Karnataka reservation bill. Karnataka reservation bill where 50%, 70%, 75% of the jobs will be reserved for management and non-management category to the local people from Karnataka. So this is result of this Nyaya Patra by Congress. So if this thing happen, then companies will not come in that fear. Same in adverse fear, these things will not happen like that. Congress was also not fear to implementing. Even Karnataka recently implemented. Extending this private sector job is a only matter of time. It may come sooner or later to prevent descent into such a aggressive identity politics and endless expansion of the quota regime. It will drive away our talent to overseas, brain drain will happen. High skill niches of the government, public individuals, public think tanks, they must develop alternative strategy to ensure upgrades the competitive abilities of SC, ST and OBC. If you see SC, ST, OBC, they lack guidance basically. If you they kindly most of the hardworking people, 90% of them will be hardworking people. Suppose 10% is benefited from reservation, 90 those who are benefited from reservation, they are hardworking people. You give the correct direction. If correct strategy is identified to put them towards national strategic purpose, they will definitely help them. This will give quota regime to the end instead of making irreversible thing. Policies to expand job opportunities. Uh, these things need to be looked for quality jobs. Center, state, and local bodies they need to work together to eliminate the inhibition of the job creation. There is a rapid induction of technology, automation in both manufacturing and services. So skill demand is becoming very polarized. So we need to increase our skill. There is a demand for huge high skill. Think of like cyber experts, neurosurgeons. Equally, more demand for lower skilled jobs aided by technology like Uber drivers, security staff, logistic, delivery persons, even retail clerk also. No one will hire cybersecurity expert or brain surgeon through quotas because they are already talented. You don't need to give the quotas to them at the lower end of the skill, where people low end manufacturing scale, hiring should be based on minimum qualification. Transparent lottery system also will work. When government and private sector with currently subcontract the work, they want to hire peons or couriers, quota are not needed. Lotteries will redistribute, and then it won't lead to reservation struggle also. Additional skills can be subsidized by employer. In this case, like some state can give. There is a need for coaching and mentoring of the SC, ST and OBC like we discussed. If we give the coaching, they will definitely be beneficial. It should happen from primary secondary levels. Even it can continue up to graduate and technical education. India already has a huge network of informal tuition teachers everywhere, hundreds of coaching classes to cater students' needs. Government committed to subsidizing apprenticeship. Even we have discussed much things about budget. Government is pushing more for unemployment to employment. So they should invest in subsidizing coaching at many levels so that the castes, those left behind, can be upgraded in soft skill, higher skill, and then that definitely will help him to go into good institution, ultimately into good manufacturing sector. Apprenticeship will work once they upgrade the soft skills. They will sway the like the caste and classes. Soft skill include ability to speak English, even Indian language fluently, even numeracy to make mathematics. These are all things can make a difference between the job that pays 8,000 to 10,000 in urban areas and a living wage of 15 to 20K per month. There is no reason why state schools should not be run by private trust and companies because they are already getting funds from public exchequer. It is additional cost of retaining teachers, enforcing disciplines, improving infrastructure that is need to be burdened by this corporate charity. Anyhow, they will pay with them, but we need to see from school angle also. Many otherwise qualified students, even first-time job seekers, do not have mentoring inputs necessary to help them succeed. So we need to focus on mentoring also. How it can be done? Public-private initiative to create mentors in every school and college, coaching center will help. Companies can do this in their corporate social responsibility budget. Additionally, through trust funded by billionaire wealth. So there are many billionaires, Nandan Nilekani billionaire fund. So these funds can be effectively utilized for skilling the people. There are better ideas that can be tried with, and then that can be scaled upon if they work. Suppose a idea you try that is working, then you implement on huge scale. In the ultimate analysis, what we need is equal opportunity for those disadvantaged by social factor. We must not go for this quota system. Endlessly, we cannot go for quota system. Reservation is one thing, but beyond the reservation, we need to create a lot of opportunity. When opportunities are created, so our Viksit Bharat will not be built only by quotas alone, nor it will come about if we busy fighting internal civil wars over quotas. So this is the good article about education and how caste-based census survey will create a dichotomy. So thank you very much for today's